Good morning, spiritual companions. This morning, we are reading The Blissful Life as realized through the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, compiled with commentary and notes by Robert Powell. Part 1, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, the Man and His Teaching. A short introduction continued. On page 11, Maharaj's uniqueness. Now for a few final observations about some unique features of Maharaj's teaching. Of all the Upanishadic teachers, Maharaj must have been one of the most flexible in molding the teaching to the state of readiness of the student, yet not watering down the truth and subtlety of spiritual issues. Let us explore, for example, the highly controversial subject of desire. Whereas many spiritual teachers frown upon or bluntly condemn self-related desire, Maharaj qualifies this as follows. Maharaj, desires are right or wrong according to circumstances. It depends on how you look at them. It is only for the individual that a distinction between right and wrong is valid. Questioner, what are the guidelines for such distinction? How am I to know which of my desires are right and which are wrong? Maharaj, in your case, desires that lead to sorrow are wrong, and those that lead to happiness are right. But you must not forget others. Their sorrow and happiness also count. Pages 25 through 26. And what do desires mean to Maharaj personally? Here is his testimony. You identify yourself with your desires and become their slave. To me, desires are things among other things, mere clouds in the mental sky, and I do not feel compelled to act on them. Page 360. Other teachers have stated that it is not the desire per se, which is always for pleasure of one form or another, that is the hindrance, but only the cultivation thereof, the urge for its continuity. Now it will be readily seen that this comes to exactly the same thing as one's identification with desire. Finally, desire as an attractive force plays an essential part in the general scheme of things, as expressed so well by Maharaj. Wherefrom come all the powerful attractions that make all created things respond to each other, that bring people together, if not from the Supreme? Shun not desire. See only that it flows into the right channels. Without desire, you are dead, but with low desires, you are a ghost. Pages 303 through 304. And one might add, may it not be that this general principle of attraction or cohesion is manifested also on the material level, as the gravitational and electric forces that hold in balance solar and atomic systems, and thereby the entire manifested universe. Generally, Maharaj's vision rises above the disputations and hair-splitting so prevalent among theologians. For example, although Hinduism, Vedanta, and Buddhism are all based upon the principle of Advaita, non-duality, there are also Hindu schools of thought that hold to duality. Maharaj is not the least involved in such controversies. He points out that even if duality were the ultimate nature of reality, there would be nothing wrong with duality, as long as it does not give rise to conflict. For ultimately, duality without strife amounts to the same thing as non-duality. Bliss is the result either way. Among many poignant observations which Maharaj makes about the human condition is that we look at reality through the mind's eye and so distort reality. Yet we may notice the contradictions in our ordinary perception. For example, what we actually want is happiness, yet we create our own hell, our own suffering and conflict. This part of Maharaj's teaching, that our faulty vision always leads to contradiction, can even be extrapolated to the realm of science. There it has been found that on the most fundamental level, our probings consistently end in paradox, which has forced scientists to re-examine their original assumptions about the nature of the universe. More and more, they have had to abandon their notion about the existence of discrete entities, such as indicated by the term particles. Now, it appears that the underlying realities in physics are events and processes, and that there exists nothing which has identity as we are used to in our thinking. However lofty the teaching may be, Maharaj always had his feet planted firmly on the ground. Unlike the majority of spiritual teachers, Maharaj had been a householder and businessman for a good part of his life, and this may well have had something to do with it. Take, for example, his position on consistency. Absolute consistency cannot realistically be expected, he averred, not even from a master like himself. Once, when challenged about some minor inconsistency in his behavior, which a visitor seemed to perceive, Maharaj dismissed the subject as follows: "You think absolute consistency is possible. Prove it by example. Do not preach what you do not practice." In a similar vein, Maharaj expressed himself about utopian visions, dismissing all speculation about the so-called betterment of the world as just that, idle speculation, and, what is more, irrelevant, because it is not real. In this connection, Maharaj stated, "The world, your world, had all the time to get better. It has not. What hope is there for the future? Of course, there have been and will be periods of harmony and peace when sattva, being, true essence, the quality of purity or goodness, is in ascendance, but things get destroyed by their own perfection. A perfect society is necessarily static, and therefore it stagnates and decays. From the summit, all roads lead downward. Societies are like people. They are born, they grow to some point of relative perfection, and then decay and die." Page 419. Maharaj's main thrust is obviously that such matters do not concern us, and also to bring us back to the here and now, which is all that ever exists. We must forget about evolution in the spiritual life. The very terms in this phrase are mutually contradictory and deal only with what is. Evolution, the idea that we need time for our liberation, is a dodge by the intellect to sidetrack the issue, to be allowed to continue with the dream. Evolution may have some relevance in the realm of science or philosophy, but not in that of spirit, the timeless and spaceless. There is so much more to Maharaj's teaching, both in scope and subtlety, that one could go on forever commenting on its unique quality. Better, therefore, to refer the reader to the record of Maharaj's conversations, such as given in I Am That, and let the aphorisms given in part 2 of this volume speak for themselves. I am very much obliged to Mr. Milo Clark of La Jolla, California, for permission to reproduce the following account. Mr. Clark spent over a month with Maharaj in Bombay in late 1978 and early 1979, and during this period he made meticulous notes of his observations. Notwithstanding the fact that some may well find this a bit of trivia in relation to the sublime nature of the teaching, I make no apology for including this rather lengthy, colorful, and highly detailed account of Maharaj's intimate surroundings by a most prospective participant in the goings-on. For the point is that it does give one a good feel of how one enlightened sage spent his days and in what kind of environment. It brings something that may be quite alien to most people closer to home, as it were. Note from the reader. I have opted to not read this section called A Day of Maharaj by Milo Clark. It comprises over 12 pages with some very good moments in it. If you, as the listener, desire to hear this chapter also, please send me a note. Otherwise, end of today's reading.